Greetings and welcome to another opportunity to become something more by just sharing ideas, sharing thoughts, right? And maybe it might align with what you're thinking, right? Because I'm coaching myself to think about a wider spectrum of things, right? And I think in trying to expand my mind and expand the view of what it is that I see, it can cure a lot of misunderstandings, right? Because you're seeing things from a higher perspective, right? And when you're looking at this higher perspective, you're looking at yourself from a higher perspective, right? Because you're connected to something that is greater than yourself, but it is of yourself, right? Because it's impossible for you to exist when you have no idea how you became, right? So by default, you're not the person that created yourself. And I'm not talking biologically, I'm just talking in general, right? Because the idea sprung from something that is greater, right? And if we look at it in software as an operating system, right? The architect and the basic understanding of that operating system is the source from which all these other devices come from, right? In software terms, right? And in software terms, now mankind is trying to turn that software into an artificial intelligence, learning machine. And you have to think to yourself, in what direction is mankind going? And what are they, and where are they taking us? Right? And as an individual, from a higher perspective, I'll have to say, I'm trying to figure it out in a biblical, right, a righteous perspective. I could say it doesn't have anything to do with me, right? Because I know the most superior intelligence is the mind, and we're connected to a mind that is superior to any artificial intelligence. Because at the end of the day, would you want an artificial orange or would you like a natural orange? Right? Everybody would say, I want a natural orange, right? And now we're beginning to understand that a computer or a machine is something that can be used to assist designers, assist musicians, assist medical doctors, assist learning, education, assist, right? Because a machine can computate something at a specific rate. And yes, the human mind can and has, right? We just have a certain finesse of getting there than a machine. And this is nothing against machines, because the mind created a machine to computate, right? Today they call it a computer, but the original computer was something far more than what we have now, thus artificial intelligence, right? So now, are you willing to forfeit your right as a person to a machine, to a subject that is in human control but is also governed as a machine? Right? So now we look at it in a biblical and human rights, right, perspective, which is the higher perspective, right, because everything is biblical, right? So then we'll forfeit and say it is God's will, right? And it being God's will, then we must let it be, right? And it sounds hard, right, from the higher perspective, because from the higher perspective, the only change that you can actually affect in this world is yourself and how you see these things, right? Because there is nothing really forcing us, right? And I will say this from a Black American, right, perspective, right? There is nothing really objectively keeping us in the game, right? Because you have to understand there is a game out there that's being played, right? And as a Black American, you say to yourself, right? Right? The game is really my game, right? And I'm being closed out on my game, but the thing is, no one ever told us that we have to continue playing the game. Right? You can change your mind at any time, right? And now create a new game for yourself, right? And then the hardest thing is to try and figure out what that game should be. It's going to mimic the same game that's carrying on now. It's just going to have more order. It's going to be founded on the truth, right? And not from a biblical sense, from a right and wrong sense, right? What is the truth and what is right, right? And it's not something that you need a degree for. It's not something that you got to pray about. It's something that is, right? What is natural to nature, all right? And if you veer towards natural to nature, you're stepping out of line, right, in this society, right? Because everybody's bumping into the next person in front of them, because everybody's on a line, right? And if you step out of line, then you'll see that there is a perspective that you can create for yourself, right? And when I say this metaphorically, I say it literally. I say that it is something that you have to do with your mind. Step out of line, right? Step out of line and stop seeing the back of someone else's head in this life. You have to step out of line so you can see what is in front of you, right? And then you can choose to decide for yourself if that is the direction that you want to head in, right? Because you get to direct your line of your life, right? I don't know if this is new to you, and I'm not saying that you have to stop doing what you're doing, but it has to be something that you decided that this is what I want to do in life and pursue it. Because believe it or not, what is easier is stepping out of line than waiting for the guy in front of you to get his turn, and the guy in front of that guy to get his turn, and so on and so forth until they get to you, right? That's a waste of your time, right? So now you have to step out of line and figure out what you want to do to make things better for yourself. And how can you make things better for yourself? By stepping out of line, right? And that's a process that you now will have to now face by looking at yourself in the mirror and deciding what you want to do and how you want to do it, right? And it's not a marathon. It's not a race. It's just what has to be done, right? Because you can't pray your way out of the situation you're in, right? It's impossible. You literally have to change your mind in the situation that you're in order to change what you're in. Sound like it makes sense? Because it's the only sense that seems to work, right? You have to do something that is righteously or connected your mind to greatness, in a productive way, right? And when you choose to do it in a productive way, then you'll see change, right? If you're smoking, stop smoking. If you're overweight, I will say diet, but diets just seems to do the same thing repetitively over and over again. That's the word dieting, right? Today you can diet, tomorrow you can go back to what you're doing, right? So it has to be something other than diet, because the word diet doesn't seem to work with a lot of people in this world, right? Or in this country, because it's the food that they're consuming, right? And it's not the brand, it's just the food that they're consuming, right? People are not in touch with themselves, right? So they eat their way into not understanding themselves, right? Because biologically we all made different, and the food today is not really sustainable, right? And when I say sustainable, you have to sustainable as a diet that you take in every day, right? Not unless you understand your function. All right? And when I say function, I mean, what is it that you should be doing to make a change in the way that you think, right? Because self-preservation has to be the main idea here, right? Because if you are familiar with the Matrix, that was the one thing that Neo had over all of them, right? Until Agent Smith figured out that's what it was, and then he was able to multiply himself, right? Self-preservation, right? And here we are subject to self-preservation, right here in this land, self-preservation, right? So there's two things that can possibly happen, all right, according to biblical terms. Moses. Right? So we have Brother Moses, we have Mother Jesus, Brother Jesus, we have Father of all, right? The one that just met the Master himself, right? Abraham, right? And David, who fought for him, right? And Solomon, who fought for him, and those who bear witness to him, right? So now you have to ask yourself, you are part of intelligence. It's just a matter of how you want to see yourself, right? How do you want to see this intelligence, right? Because in the beginning, I created man in my likeness from the dust of the earth, right? So from the beginning, then that means everyone that comes in the likeness of the Father is from that word sound, right? That from the dust of the earth, right? So dust, dirt, dust of the earth, right? So that means you're natural, right? You're natural to land, right? So if this land is underwater, it's still land, right? So you have a whole planet that belongs to you. Whatever there's land, it belongs to you, right? So that means nature belongs to you by natural cause and effect, right? Mother versus nature, you're of nature. So that means you're connected to spirits, you're connected to the past as well as the future. Because you can't wait for the future to come. You have to design it before it comes, right? The same way you designed your life now is the same way you have to design your future. But the thing about it, you have to see it in a broader stroke, right? Where you have stepped back or you have risen to a higher level of understanding, your perspective, right? A lot of people's perspective is just lateral, right? I'm going to see today, I'm going to see the hours today, I'm going to see through the hours today, and I'm going to make it through the week, and I'm going to start on the weekend, and I don't know, right? It sounds like confusion. 5 days a week, 7 days a week, right? If you have no understanding, right? Because in order to change anything in your life, you have to understand yourself first, right? You can have a bad boss, you can have a cheating girlfriend or a cheating husband, or someone that is, you fill in the blanks, right? What is how you see yourself? How do you see what it is that you desire in this world, right? And desire is not a sin, right? Wanting is not a sin. The only sin is not having patience to receive it, right? Because when you don't have patience, you're basically telling the creator of all things that, damn it, I'm not sure you can do this for me. So let me run out there and do something heinous, or let me do something that was not I really wasn't comfortable with what I am, right? So now all the excuses come when something goes awry, right? Patience is all we need, right? And we see how patience was Sarah, Abraham and Sarah, right? And Hagar. And he didn't have patience. Here he is, man. He talks to the Almighty, right? Conversation, that's his bedroom, right? He stops by anytime he's in town, sits down and have some ale with Abraham, right? And they chew the fat, right? And he tells him all these things. And my man still turned around and stuff with the help. Right? So you're looking at it like, I don't understand, right? It sounds like a Tiger Woods story, but I don't get it. I don't get it, man. It's just patience. So now in 2025, I'm seeing that patience is not only a virtue, it's pivotal to success, right? Because you have to understand, the more antsy you get, as I have been myself, because life coaching begins with me. It doesn't begin with an instructor. It begins in me. You know what I'm saying? I made the prognosis. I choose the regimen, and I'm figuring this out. Because once I do, it's a game changer, right? To understand oneself. And you can read all the books you want, man, but if you're not doing the homework, and you're not doing the homework within yourself, you know, and I see for myself that I've come a long way, right? I realize that there isn't a line in society, and it's not blurred. There just isn't a line, right? But there is a line, right? When you're on this level, right? It's black and white, and that's it. There's no color, there's no in between. It's just black and white, right? And you just have to decide what side you want, right? You have to. It's no longer about economics. And they say it's economics, but no, not really. Not really. Because if I had the goose that laid the golden egg, which I do. I do, right? How much would anything be to me? It would be free, right? So look at all the men that have created what you call a fortune for themselves, right? They're special. They're above the norm, not because they created a product, but it's because we consume it at a level that it gave them full autonomy to do whatever they feel like they could do, right? And you have to ask yourself, who is now protecting you? Because it's sure not your elected official? Who is protecting you? Who has your interest now? Right? I'll give you a zero. Zero. You have people pretending that they fight in the system, but they're all millionaires. It's impossible. There's no one fighting for your rights. Right? Everybody is getting in line on this. Right? And now it's time for you to step out of line on this. Right? You better know yourself. And you have to know the only thing that can stop these men or stop these things from occurring. Right? In your life. Because you have to understand, it's a plague. Right? And it's called misinformation. You think the world is what they said it is, but it's not. It's something totally different. And you cannot see this at this level because you're all in lines and your head is facing the head ahead of you. Right? So your perspective is skewed. Right? Until you step out of line. So it's time to step out of line. Draw your own line. Because your future is important. And dig it. If you refuse to, it's alright. Right? I mean, Daniel had to go through the fire. Right? Meshach, Abednego, they had to go through the fire. Right? Jesus had to go through the fire. Right? Moses had to go through the fire. Right? So when you go through the fire and you come out unscathed, or you see what it is, or you find your religion, and you know your religion is not in a book at this particular time, it's right in front of you. All you have to do is take a look in the mirror, because I'm sure the information is sifting. It's a difference of right and wrong, good and evil. That's all it is, ever. Not rich and poor, not black and white. Right? Take a look in the mirror. Think about it. Thank you for listening. This is God and Light Coaching. I am R.H. Alexander, and I'm turning over a new leaf. Happy Black History Month.